Hello. I appreciate anybody who hangs out for a presentation right before lunch. My name is Noz Urbina, and this is the Unreliable Computer Revolution. Embracing the double-edged sword of generative AI. So I think that there's lots of great material that you've seen in the two presentations before me, which I might pick up on a little bit. But a little bit about me. I'm a content strategist and modeler. I've about 25 years experience in structured content solutions with a focus on adaptive and omni-channel strategies. So I have kind of a similar background to Stephen. We come from the same declarative language, semantic markup kind of background. I did write a book, Content Strategy, Connecting the Dots Between Business, Brand, and Benefits. And I'm a master's thesis tutor in Graz, Austria. And I founded two organizations, Urbina Consulting itself and Omnichannel X, which is where we do our podcasting and our articles and our newsletter and so on. And we're a teeny little company, but we do have lots of great friends and partners around the world, which is a great thing for me at this conference to meet new friends and potential contractors. So my experience is wide and deep. In the last 25 years, I've kind of done lots of everything. My specialty has usually been big, ugly, scary projects. I was actually once told I was the only consultant who didn't run away. So and what's been good about that is because I started in semantic and structured 25 years ago, I was able to see a lot of innovation. I was kind of always like, for example, Web 2.0 and Ajax and the interactive web. I got to see those kind of 5-7 years before they actually came out in the public way. So I've always lived on the cutting edge, which has helped me a lot. But I want to start with the end of my story. I had a good conversation with Vlatka, who I think already did her talk, her workshop, and she asked me, what's the one thing that you're trying to say in this presentation? So the end of my story, in the briefest terms, is I would like you to use generative AI carefully. And so the rest of this deck is going to be about how we do that. So I want you to take away that this is a snapshot of a bolt of lightning. Generative AI, the speed of change, something I'm going to talk about in a minute. I also want to, really makes me a bit nuts that generative AI has kind of taken over the word AI, as if all AIs are ChatGPT and Gemini and Midjourney. GenAI is unreliable by design. I want to get into that and what the implications are. I did my workshop yesterday. I can see some of the workshop participants here. And we talked a lot about understanding that this unreliability is part of the magic and part of the power. Despite that, it can and should be used, but use it carefully. So I want to talk a little bit about the pace of change. And I know we have, it's a pretty advanced audience, and I think we all know about, we hear about exponential growth and big numbers and all the time, but I want to visualize that a little bit. We see a lot of graphs like this. Stephen showed one, which is on a logarithmic scale. I don't know how many people in this room actually know what a logarithmic scale is. I only found out like 2 years ago. So this is the Moore's law, which is the law that it used to be about the number of transistors on a microchip, so how many little switches there were in each microchip, but actually it basically applies to memory, hard drives, processing speeds, network speeds. Just about everything computery doubles every 2 years and has been going back into the 60s and 70s. And this is how it's nicely graphed on Wikipedia, a nice diagonal line. On a linear scale, this graph would start at 1,000 and end at 27,000. On a logarithmic scale, it starts at 1,000 and ends at 50 billion. So it's nothing like any other scales that we usually look at, and I find it very misleading that people keep putting up logarithmic scales when we really should be putting up the scales that we're kind of used to. So I said I was in this for about 25 years, so I took a 26-year span because that was kind of the limit of my Excel skills to create the chart. But I thought it was convenient, so it's basically my whole career. So let's look back 20 years. 25 years. If you take 20 years of Moore's law, around when I started my career in 1999, 2000, and you double, let's say you start at 10 megabytes or transistors or whatever it is. For 20 years, it's kind of meh. And then in the last 5 years, you get to what I call the holy shit zone. That's where we are. So as much as we feel like computers can kind of been advancing and they get faster every year, we're not really understanding what faster means. Human brains were not built to understand logarithmic or exponential growth. So things are just taking off now, and now, it's not coincidental that suddenly all these AI technologies suddenly become feasible. AI is advancing 5 to 7 times faster, which was completely beyond my Excel skills. But yesterday, I was able to ask an AI to make the graph for me. So if we take generative AI LLMs, like ChatGPT or Gemini or Midjourney, any of these models, they are growing 10x annually. So if you take a billion, you end at 10 quintillion, or 10 million. So ChatGPT was about 1 billion parameters in February 2019. I don't know if you remember 2019, but some shit went down. So we all kind of didn't notice ChatGPT growing over those first few years. But what I want to point out on this graph is we are there. So things are really going to get interesting in the next 5 years. And I want to remind people, it hasn't even started. All of these AIs that you've seen, all the magic that I'm going to show in this presentation, is not even the beginning of the beginning. So going back 5 years, 2019, we remember quite clearly. So in the same amount of time, we're going to be dealing with numbers and abilities which the world has never seen, and really is going to struggle to even comprehend. So now, my favorite rant in the talk. Generative AI is ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Midjourney, DALL-E. I call them culture compressed. Basically, you zip up the entire internet and you put it in a compressed file, and then you ask that file questions. That's my simple explanation of AI. We had before this, machine learning and other types of artificial intelligence that we were using already, like Facebook, Netflix, Google, Tinder, which were massively impacting our economies, our societies, our democracies. Then there's recognition, so Shazam, image to text, auto-tagging, so the ability for systems to actually tag languages automatically. Auto-taggers are like auto-translators. You remember Google Translate 10 years ago was just ridiculous. Google Translate now is pretty good. It works. Same thing with auto-tagging and all of these recognition systems. We're getting to the point of decent reliability. And then my birthplace, intelligence modeling, which is kind of the different one. So that's not where we're actually doing the processing or building the automatic models. That's where humans are establishing world models. What is the relationship between a doctor and a patient and a disease and a symptom and a hospital? So all these kind of ways that we actually can put together real databases of the way things work and the way they're connected. If you Google something, that right-hand panel on the right-hand side of Google, where it's got all quick facts, that's the Google Knowledge Graph. So that's based on a semantic model of the information. And so you know what the key facts about a bank or a musician or whatever are. These all work together. So I'm going to talk about that kind of for the rest of the presentation. The other thing I want to talk about is when I am talking to clients and developers and product managers, there's a huge excitement to throw chatbots in front of people. How can we replace our website? How can we replace our staff? How can we fire people and automate everything? I, as you will see in this presentation, do not have a lot of trust in AI, and that's why we get along, because we understand each other. There's so many places in the content and design lifecycle where AI can be applied. Interview and call transcription, sentiment analysis, insight extraction, data analysis. All of these AI can be used at the very beginning of the process to feed into later AI processes. So where I do a lot of work, and my workshop yesterday was about requirements development, where we're doing AI persona simulations, journey mapping, metadata and content design, auto-tagging, and deduplication. And then we can get into one of my favorite things, like a reuse recommendation engine. So not a content recommendation engine where you're just feeding people products or the next link to click on, but inside your enterprise. You know, if I'm doing a project, where might there be some reusable code? Where might there be some reusable content? Has someone already described this product? Many of you may have heard studies when Nokia did a content audit, they found they described the same feature 57 different ways across different silos in the company. So can we get AI to help us deduplicate at the authoring stage? Content brainstorming and drafting, personalization planning, variant generation, these are the ones that a lot of people are doing today when they're playing with these tools. And then when we get customer-facing, we can do search and recommendation engines, LLMs and conversational interfaces, personalization, and people are not doing this so much yet. People are kind of generating some wireframes and some code samples. I do see a future in on-the-fly generated applications. So applications that build themselves based on certain paths and constraints that are set out by the developer, rather than the developer actually coding on a screen-by-screen basis. The point of this slide is do not confine AI to any one area or phase. So not chatbots, not image generation. It is a many-splendored thing that has many types of application throughout and can add value throughout. So this is the crux of my presentation. So I wrote an article about this, which I'll link to later, but unreliable computers. The big shift, the way I summarize it, is we've gone from accountants to artists. The way that computer programming worked is a human being figured out the solution, they explained the solution to the computer, and the computer repeated the solution on request. So anything else was a bug. I told you what to do. If it's not doing what I intended, we go in and we fix the code. It's kind of like a calculator. It just does what it's supposed to do, very dry, very repetitive, perfect memory, perfect recall, perfect repeatability. And now we are in the world of creative computers. Computers that can brainstorm and ideate and invent and think laterally and generate images like this one. Not all the time. So we keep seeing this, and when I see AI presentations, these examples, people love these examples. But this was a few months later. I showed you those graphs. Whenever you hear the term AI can't or AI will never be able to, I want you to pause and humble yourself, because we don't know. Well, all we do know is that it's going to change enormously fast and faster than our squishy mammal brains can handle. This is one of my favorite examples when we're getting to AI-generated video. Many of you may have seen this before. I'm showing it anyway. The physics of the snow, the cuteness of the dogs. This is, for me, the big, honking, heavy cell phones that we had I don't remember, in the 90s, on the ones you had have like a suitcase for the battery. This is the equivalent of the real-time, full-length movies that we'll be generating in a few years. At the same time, this screenshot was taken just a little while ago. How can I get a passenger receipt? The AI says, I'm briefly looking for more information. I found the following for you. How can I transfer an urn? No proposal fits. For those of you who don't know what an urn is, that's when someone dies and you burn them. The urn is the little thing that you carry their ashes in. So that's the closest that the AI could come to answering how you get a receipt. And Google, 2 months ago, with Google's resources and Google's designers and Google's engineers, released a public-facing product that was telling people to eat rocks, put glue on their pizza, and that pregnant women should smoke for the benefit of their health. So, again, with all this power comes an enormous amount of responsibility. AI is not like traditional software, as I was alluding to earlier. It isn't programmed. No one sits down and figures out how it works. it's grown. You take an artificial brain and you give it tons of food, which is electricity and data, and then you give it some desires, which are the objectives that you set for the AI, and it grows like a fungus. And no one actually knows what's going on inside there. And we're still working on seeing if we can train other AIs to maybe teach us what's going on in the AIs we've already built. So you can read the rest of the article about that. OpenAI's Sam Altman tells Salesforce's Mark Benoff that AI hallucinations are more a feature than a bug. So a hallucination is when the AI creates something which does not fit our expectations or is simply an incorrect synthesis of information. So when AI tells you should smoke while you're pregnant, or that you should put glue on your pizza, these count as hallucinations. Those hands were hallucinated. We have 5 fingers, not 18. But generation needs some chaos. If you're going to actually create, you cannot just be reproducing, or else you're talking about a search engine. If it perfectly brings you what's in the data, we already have that. That's called search. When you synthesize, you change the content. You bring it together, you make it shorter, you make decisions, you throw things away. So this ability to hallucinate is the only thing that makes it able to create anything at all. So the way I reframe AI is, this hallucination goes deep, and the way that I kind of, when I'm training on AIs, for example, my workshop, I remind people, AIs can forget, like us. You know, you talk to them too much and they just forget what you were saying earlier. They get confused. If you give them vague or ambiguous or contradictory instructions, they'll won't get it. They get overwhelmed. So when we're talking about persona simulations, we're trying to spin up persona research data in AI, and my customers say, can I just not just create one super AI that has all of my customers in it, and I'll just use that? I said, no, it's just not going to be able to keep that straight in its AI head. You can't do that. And they get lazy. So if you Google ChatGPT lazy, you will get dozens of articles about ChatGPT's laziness going up and down. It's trying to give you the right length of answer. Sometimes it's too long, sometimes it's too short, sometimes it's not what you wanted, sometimes it gets wrong, and sometimes it gets really lazy, and you have to kick it and ask it again and say no. I would say the most respectful and rational way to think about it is this. A GenAI is like someone gave you 10,000 inexperienced interns. Can they be productive? Yes. Can you trust them to work untrained and unmonitored? No. And there's this problem of bias. So this is the result when you prompt Midjourney with just for attractive people. You get a lot of this. If you ask for people at social services, getting help from the government, you get people like that. And if you ask for a productive person, suddenly we get another switch to a very clear stereotype. So this is a problem. This is a problem, but it is also a problem. Oh, sorry, I want to go one deeper this time. Even when they know the images are fake or AI generated, 1 in 3 women and girls feel pressure to alter their appearance because of what they see online. It doesn't matter if we know it's fake. Again, we are the squishy mammals. They are the computers. So we cannot rationalize our reactions. And then there's this. We know, maybe not you, surely not you, but we know we're tired, we're overworked, and kids love digital stuff. We just shove it, and then they're entertained. So these intelligences and these applications which we're about to release on the world are highly impactful and will change our world, the same way that the internet changed our world and social media changed our world. This image is AI generated. How many people in here can tell me they felt nothing when they saw it? So it's all of us. So there's an ethical responsibility to think of potential abuses. I heard people in the first session on the first day saying, listen, the client's the client, they're paying. We might push back a little bit, but what they say goes. I think there is an ethical responsibility now, because we are building tools of potential mass harm. we have to think of the abuses. We have to sometimes say no. There is actually, and I love this, Google themselves released the taxonomy of tacits and insights for generative AI misuse. So all the different ways, they have a whole taxonomy list of ways that AI can be used for opinion manipulation, deep fakes, undressing services. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's a wonderful thing to be introduced in the world. That's where you feed it a photo and they give you a naked photo of that person. Phishing and forgery, and additional techniques involving everything from child sex abuse to cybersecurity to terrorism. So, you can build something with power and good intent. That does not mean that that's how it will be used in the wild. So I am so passionate about this, I've just launched a second podcast just about this. What happens when truth collapses? So you'll be seeing some articles and stuff come out there. I have a lot to say on this. So I'm on both sides of the AI fence. Despite that, it can and should be used. This is Dove, their Real Beauty campaign. If you're not familiar, they've been using non-typical models for the last 20 years to represent beauty. And so if you ask for perfect skin or a beautiful woman or et cetera, you will get the kind of images that I was showing you earlier. But if you ask according to the Dove Real Beauty campaign, you get the other images. So the AI has diversity in there, but you do have to ask for it. If you are impatient and just put in the least amount of thinking into your request, you will get the least amount of thinking in your answer. The request and the data diet make the difference. AI, the kind of tools we're seeing today are what are called a fifth-generation programming language, which is very cool for me, because as I was saying earlier, due to how I happened to get out of university and land in a bucket of innovation, I was talking about fifth-generation programming languages 20 years ago. And so now I'm using them for the first time. And a fifth-generation is a program solving using constraints given to the program rather than an algorithm written by a programmer. Many constraint-based and logic programming languages and some other declarative languages are fifth-generation languages. It uses artificial intelligence technology to solve problems on its own. Stephen told you about declarative languages in the first session. So we're here now. It's time. And this just sheer productivity. So this guy made this augmented reality Tetris application in an hour on the train to and from work. 54 minutes was chatting with ChatGPT, who designed the game and approach and wrote all the code, and he spent 6 minutes generating the pink grid to put in the background. I wrote this article, Don't Feel Bad, Content Complexity in Life Sciences and Pharma. It took me 40 minutes, which for an article is nothing. Ready to publish article. I had an idea, I put in a prompt, and then I went into the results and I added real case studies, real examples, real customer quotations to make it more substantial. One day later, those of you in the back probably can't see this down here, I got a message from, thank you for accepting the invite. I saw the brilliant article on content complexity in life science and pharma. It's awesome. That was from a vice president of global project management from Gartner. So it was a good article. It wasn't generic ChatGPT output. It can absolutely be done. And generative AI is not just about generating images and text. This is generative motion, where, sorry, I'm going to go to the beginning again because I just love watching them wiggle on the ground. So this is no training. And this is 5 years of virtual training. So 5 virtual years, which how long a virtual year is depends on how much computer power you have. So maybe that was 1 minute, maybe it was an hour, we don't know. But synthetic and simulated training for applications and for robots and for all these devices are also generative AI. And this is also one of my favorites. A lot of people are kind of thinking, I have to talk to the AI. I have to go in there and tell the AI what to do and have it do something. So I do a lot of semantic structured and modeled content. So if we have a content model like this, where we have knowledge base articles, or KB articles over here, we have a glossary and terminology, and we have tasks, and we have these relationships between them. I want to focus on the idea that you can start teaching your AI your content model, so that not only just understands how to do content, but it understands how to do your content in that format, in the way that your application or website wants it. So a AI connection can be made between 2 points in your content model. So we can tell it that the summary of a glossary is the summary of the definition. We could tell it the relationship between the challenge that's described in a knowledge base article and how to transform that into the context for a formal piece of documentation on how to do the task. Similarly, the solution could be restructured from an engineer just putting their knowledge into an article to formal steps, and they could be checked against the product for validity. And then that whole thing, once it's produced from the KB article, could then be summarized automatically into the summary of the task. In future, and I know this because I talked to the heads of product management for some CMSs, in future, CMSs will offer this as a built-in feature. So you define your content in the CMS, and you say, this content has this AI relationship to that content, which will accelerate the entire creativity and building process. And I, as an omnichannel guy, of course, want to see that then fed out into search engine results, chatbots, VR experiences, and so on and so on. Okay. I end here on caution. Embracing the double-edged sword. So, as I said, it has a lot to do with the request. AI enables us all to be programmers without being coders. Those who can best understand the problem, its context, its constraints, and the intended results, and are able to express that logically and clearly, vigilant for their own and the AI's bias, will win the future. So we can all program, we can all create things, because we're moving away from the need to understand how computers speak to just understanding how we need to think clearly and model it what it is we want. This is an example. This was what I was teaching in the workshop yesterday that we do. This is the ROX method, Rapid AI-Powered User Experience. And so we're going beyond chatting with AIs, and we actually have an AI configuration, and we prompt it with requests, which target specific skills, or you can just talk to it, or you give it files, like you can upload customer research, upload empathy maps, and that will feed on to the next request, or another AI configuration or process. And within the configuration, we have particular structures, like there's contexts and frameworks and examples, and these are all clearly blocked out for the AI to be able to refer to, the same way that you would clearly lay out a document or a page for a normal user. We define particular skills, and we provide knowledge across the bottom. So some of you may have heard the term RAG, or retrieval augmented generation, but it could be, the knowledge can be anything. It can be a database, it could be a knowledge graph, ontology, etc. And these skills, like an Alexa skill, when you say, Alexa, turn on the lights, or Alexa, play this from Spotify, these are points of integration, where your AIs can go and call other applications that know how to do things better than the AI can. A skill is very simple. So if we think structurally and logically, what is a skill? Take something, do something, and reply with something. Input, task, output. So when I'm training on AI, we work out how to break down what we want into those three structures. What am I going to give it? What is it going to do with that? And how do I want it to come out again? So we have a very simple skill, which I teach all of my AIs, which is learn. I want to give you more data, and I don't want you to talk about it. I don't want you to comment. I just want you to just learn it. So the skill is learn, which is add the input as context to your current task, reply only with done. So the input is, of course, the input. The task is to add, and then the output is reply only with done. That is a very simple skill that prevents the AI from talking, as you may have experienced. We do a lot of customer journey maps. They're quite complex. we have personas and look at their goals, their narratives. We break down questions on a stage-by-stage basis with geography, channel, and persona taken into account, and a bunch of other stuff. And we're doing this workflow now where we've developed multiple AIs that speak to each other. So we have a UX assistant which helps us figure out the personas with the persona skill. We create journey outlines with the journey outline skill. Then once we've got a journey outline, we can ask the personas what their experience would be. And then we can ask the UX assistant for suggestions of what we would do for that user in that situation, and we can ideate solutions. So the J stage skill is a bit more complicated. It says craft a journey stage content using these headings. So right now I'm just having the persona introduce themselves. They are a breast cancer sufferer of a certain type. So they speak with their personality. They don't speak like ChatGPT. And then I'm going to ask it, you're considering participating in a clinical drug trial. And it's going to respond in journey format. So it comes back, breaking down the reply based on that persona, but always against my standard for what I want in a customer journey map. Then I can go over to, I can ask the UX assistant to come join the conversation. So I add the UX assistant to the conversation, and I ask it to suggest opportunities, content assets, calls to action, stage transition signals for this user in this situation. So if we take the time to teach our AIs, educate them, and give them standards, they'll be much, much more powerful. I worked with Barclays about a decade ago. So this is way before the ChatGPT era of chatbots. We were doing chatbots back then. And the head of infrastructure said, of all the efforts we made to optimize success rates for the AI in our chatbots, the main thing that moved the needle was improving the taxonomy tagging of the source content. Do not try to load all your effort into the most brilliant AI in the world. Think of the entire life cycle of all the content that goes in there. This has been reproduced very recently. So with ChatGPT 4, they've looked at SQL versus knowledge graphs. So regular databases versus databases that are semantically structured, that really are declarative and describe the relationships, not as tables, but as concepts. And the AI's performance using these kind of databases vastly outperform traditional databases. So for complex answers to a complex question, they're only doing 38.7%, but compared to 0 with a SQL database. So understanding the right way to feed and nurture your AI is really, really important. And from Microsoft, I like this quote. They said, training data with textbook quality can give you 1,000 times size gain. So if you took 1,000 times bigger model, fed on random internet and Reddit stuff, you would get the same performance as a 1,000 times smaller model that had been given a really good textbook about your information. So are you feeding it duplication and poor quality data? The gold is in the data. And basic learning skills apply. Tell it, if it doesn't do what you want, tell it to try it again. If it doesn't get the answers, say, maybe work it out step by step. Tell it, let's start from the beginning. These are all actual things that I say to actual AIs to try to make them perform better. I tell it, remember, if it's forgotten something. I put things in all caps and use exclamation marks. And then we have, let's have someone else, human or AI, check this. So there's something called a mixture of agents. I'm not going to get into that, but that's the idea of multiple smaller AIs can actually perform better than one big one. So if each AI is checking the next one's work, evaluating and passing it on, that's how we're going to get that curve, is not thinking of the biggest, best AI, but how a network of AI works together. So in conclusion, generative AIs should not be considered individually. Don't sit and spend your time thinking about whether ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude is the best AI in the world. Think about them as parts of a digital intelligence anatomy that goes across your tech stack, that might involve different types of AI, different types of databases. I think that most of the time LLMs should just be the interface for talking to other more reliable, better structured systems in the back. It works best when it is collaborating with people. So at the moment, I'm trying to keep my customers from throwing AI content straight in front of their customers. I try to work earlier in the life cycle and collaborate with humans. It works best when it can ask other AIs or more reliable systems for help, and when it's fed, trained, instructed, and thought out carefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Noz. Okay, so the lunch is almost done, but maybe we can do a question or two if all of you don't mind.
Thank you, Noz. It was amazing presentation, very eloquent, fantastic. Two events that a lot of people are speculating that are going to happen now. I want to know your opinion. The first one is AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and the second one is Singularity. Do you think when do you think they're going to happen? And how do you see the relationship with these two new entities that are going to appear?
So AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence, is commonly understood as when you have an AI as smart as a human, or can do the task that a human can do. With all respect to everyone who's chasing this debate, I think it's an irrelevant debate. I think it's ridiculous to debate crossing a finish line where we have no clue what it is. We don't know how to quantify intelligence. We don't understand human intelligence. So saying when it reaches human intelligence is such a vague and undefinable benchmark. And it's not a human intelligence. It's an intelligence that's developing in its own way. It's like when we say our octopus is as smart as cows. I think the debates are not really useful. And also, both the power and the danger are now. And so people talking about when will this happen, when will they get human-like, the AIs that have been taking down democracies in Facebook for 10 years are not human level, but they're freaking dangerous, and we should think about how we use them.
Another question? Anyone? Yeah?
So what do you think about the dangers of how we describe AIs? Because we ascribe a lot of intelligence to them. We say they hallucinate as if they are, on drugs and experiencing new things. But recently an article came out that took a look at what are they actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the opinion of the article was, no, actually there's a really good definition of a word that fits much better, and it's bullshitting. Namely, the AIs that we all use are very confidently saying completely untrue things.
Of which I gave several examples.
Exactly. But isn't there a danger in us humanizing them already?
There is a huge danger in that. And so I said at the beginning, the reason that AI and I get along is because I don't trust it. Everything I do, I treat it as an intelligence, but an intelligence that cannot be relied on. So that middle ground is the intern's example. So it's mainly making what I would call honest mistakes. It's doing its best with the level of intelligence it has. I'm not really scared of AI itself. I'm scared of the people who are on Facebook, own a gun, and think that wrestling is real. It's the human beings who are influenced by AI that is the danger. Yeah, and I showed that picture of the baby. I hope I got most of you, because it got me. So yeah, we are going to treat them as human. We are going to, if you can simulate human enough, that doesn't matter. There's this old Zen proverb, which is a reassuring lie is preferred to the truth.
Okay, one more.
Thank you, Noz. It was a fantastic presentation. What do you think about people that is saying that we have to really stop feeding AI with all the overall content on the internet? What do you think about people that is saying that when you are trying to align something that is much more intelligent than you are lost? Because there's an important trend there that is going in this direction.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm usually working with big enterprises, and there's two forces in the big enterprise. One is accuracy, reliability, brand protection, litigation protection, and the other one is we've got to be the first, we've got to do it best, we've got to do it shiniest and sexiest. So there's the pull between those two things. I prefer the idea of LLMs just being a language interface and real databases that have structure being the things that return the payload, truth, as it were, should not be in the AI because they're not designed to keep things straight. A language model is a language model, it's not a database model. So I agree that I don't think we can use big chunks of data, but the whole internet kind of randomly, I do think that that's dangerous. And I would be more for training them with more selected data.